First, so let's bring in Andrew Clennell, our political editor. And it was a big part of the campaign. And now the government says they've delivered, although, of course, it was a decision by the Fair Work Commission, Andrew.
That's right, Kieran. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said this during the election campaign about a minimum wage rise keeping pace with inflation. Back then, inflation was 5.1%.
Does that mean you would support a wage hike of at least 5.1% just to keep up with inflation?
Absolutely.
After the election, he and his minister Tony Burke backed it up with a submission calling for the wage to rise at the same rate as inflation. So this is the Fair Work President Ian Ross, a former Assistant Secretary of the ACTU, today with the wage decision.
Taking all the relevant considerations into account, we have decided to award an increase of $40 per week to the national minimum wage, which amounts to an increase of 5.2%. This level of increase will protect the real value of the wages of the lowest paid workers.
A 5.2% rise, 4.6% for relevant awards. The PM welcomed the decision in Gladstone after a cabinet meeting today.
At the heart of the election campaign, I was asked whether I would welcome a decision by the Fair Work Commission to increase the minimum wage by just $1. And today they have done just that. And when I was asked would I welcome a decision, I said absolutely. And I absolutely welcome today's decision.
Relations Minister Tony Burke went even further, claiming credit.
The era of wages being kept deliberately low by the Liberal and National parties effectively came to an end today. People will be seeing in their bank accounts what the change of government means.
And in a statement from the PM Treasurer and IR Minister, the government said, quote, "This is a great result for these workers, but it's only the beginning. The government is determined to get wages moving again." ACTU President Sally McManus says the decision will affect a quarter of Australian workers. It is difficult to see how the Fair Work Commission could have done much else with inflation where it is. Reserve Bank Governor Philip Lowe speculated last night inflation will reach 7% this year, despite many interest rate rises.
By the end of the year, inflation will get to close to 7%, and we need to chart a course to bring it back down. We're expecting the Australian economy to continue to grow pretty strongly over the next 6 to 12 months. There's still a bounce back from all the COVID restrictions. People have got these savings that I've talked about to draw on, and the current rate of saving is still quite high.
The Reserve Bank Governor seemed to say sorry but not sorry when it came to telling people early in the pandemic that we will not have a rate rise until 2024.
Yeah, I understand that people made borrowing decisions based on our communication, and people took out loans that they may not have otherwise taken out. But the overall picture, which is really very much the focus of the Reserve Bank, is a pretty resilient economy.
And he seemed to admit that the Reserve Bank and former government might have gone too far pump priming the economy, but compared it to insurance.
The other thing we wanted to do was provide some insurance, some economic insurance for the country, that if these really bad outcomes were going to eventuate, that we would be there, we'd be able to support people. But that's the nature of insurance, isn't it? You take out insurance against a very bad event, the very bad event occurs, and you're very glad you took out the insurance. But the bad event doesn't occur, and then you think, well, I could have saved some money here. I didn't need all this insurance. My view is that broadly the country got it right.
The Australian Chamber of Commerce and Industry have said the wage decision today will cost business $8 billion a year, and they already have to cope with the 0.5% rise in the superannuation guarantee from July. ACTU President Sally McManus says company profits are going up significantly, and it's about time workers saw some of that.
It's not as if businesses are suffering at the moment. They're not. Their profits are up 20%, 20%. If we had have won the 5.5%, that would have equated to 1% of their profits, a small amount.
The decision comes on a day that it was reported that politicians received a pay rise of 2.75%. It probably also means that there is likely to be some unrest in the public sector, including in New South Wales, where the state government recently announced it was lifting its wages cap of 2.5% to just 3%. There have been talks about teachers' strikes and the like.